Balance is a great formula for mitochondrial function. It helps the body heal faster. It helps boost immunity. It increases mitochondrial function, and it helps the body produce ATP. We're focused on cellular communication.
You're cracking the code on multiple things, but it's all based upon optimizing the human body's ability to stay alive and to have a much higher quality of life in every category.
You know, this product literally saved my life. Why doesn't everybody have it? And how can I help you bring it to the world?
So how does this tie into detoxification, for example?
With one drop under the tongue, everything can change within 15 minutes to 30 minutes.
So I'm here today with a very exciting podcast with Wendy Cohn-Osborne and Dr. Lisa Piper. And you guys are going to really bring some great gold nuggets for everyone here. And I'm looking forward to getting into the conversation immediately. And the first thing I'd like to do is have both of you give a quick snapshot of where you've come from in life, how do you end up in the health space, where you're at right now, and what's your vision for the future. And then we'll get into the meat of the subjects.
Sure. Well, you know, right from the moment I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a hairstylist. So that had been my journey for 30 years, and it's what always put food on my table. And parallel to that journey, I've been a lifelong student and really interested in the more esoteric things in life. So I studied things like world religion and took a few trips to India to study with monks at a spiritual school. And then my formal education, all while doing hair, is, well, a master's in health psychology and a doctorate or PhD in natural medicine. So my journey has been quite interesting because I was in the middle of getting my PhD when the pandemic struck. And I created an energy healing modality called soul energy alignment. And my plan was to bring that to the world when I got very, very sick and nearly died from COVID. And fortunately, my father was the neighbor to a brilliant biologist whose name is Dr. John McMichael, and he specialized in immunology and virology. And my father said, well, Dr. John has these drops and I'm going to overnight them to you, and they don't have drugs in them, so you're going to like them. And I said, okay, Dad, send me the drops. And, you know, they came in a little dropper bottle that had handwriting on it and a recipe card of, you know, exactly how to take it. And the very next day, my fever that was 104 was normal. And after the second day, I got taste and smell back. And fast forward, a year goes by, and I went up to meet Dr. McMichael in person to thank him for saving my life, and so that he could put a face with my name. And when I got there, I also wanted to pick his brain because, like you, he's brilliant. And I said to him, why doesn't everybody have this? You know, this product literally saved my life. Why doesn't everybody have it? And how can I help you bring it to the world? So it was at that point where my life took a turn, and soul energy alignment, which I actually wrote my dissertation on, took the back burner. And I called up my best friend, Wendy, and I said, Wendy, please. I shared my vision with her, and I literally prayed that she would see the vision and do this with me, because I knew that she is strong where I'm weak, and I'm strong where she's weak. And I knew that together we would form this perfect partnership. So here we are. We formed Code Health in April of 23, even though we had been testing products and doing other things before that. That was the official date that we started the company. And we officially started selling products in October of 2023.
Well, that is fabulous.
Yeah. Wendy, tell your background, because that's why I picked you.
Well, my background, Lisa talked about as a child what she wanted to be. And really, if I had to say what I wanted to be as a child, it was actually a doctor. I'm not a doctor, although I like to pretend I play one on TV sometimes. But my background actually is in business and in marketing and finance. And over the course of my career lifetime, I had the opportunity also to practice law. I practiced workers' compensation and Social Security disability. But the interesting thing is, I always worked with doctors. And then after my law career, I went into a business that was also with doctors, and it was a CBD business. And we had a zero THC free CBD company and a very specific niche. And I did that for a few years. And just like Lisa said, turned into the opportunity of partnering with Lisa and taking her vision and taking code and bringing it to the world. When I saw what these, we call them miracle molecules, did for Lisa during COVID, I actually was able to experience them as well. But well after Lisa took them, I got COVID about a year later. These molecules did something that nothing else that we saw, except the human body's natural ability to heal itself. But we knew we needed to do something with it. And what we found out was that not only did Dr. McMichael have the molecular formula for this antiviral formula, but he had over 200 patents for other molecular formulas. So 7 out of our 10 formulas are Dr. McMichael's, and 3 are proprietary. But it's been an exciting journey. And like Lisa said, where she's strong, I'm weak, and where I'm weak, she's strong. And together, we are the Code Girls, and we are just we feel blessed that we're able to be bringing our products to the world, and not just our products, but our mission, and meet individuals like yourself who are like-minded. And this is where we are today. So thank you so much, for asking about our backgrounds and what brought us to where we are today, because everybody has a story and everybody has, a tale to tell. And if you go through life and you have your experiences and you take those experiences, good, bad, and ugly, and you utilize especially the mistakes that you've made and the things that you learn from them, you just keep on improving with each day. And I think that's what Lisa and I have done with our own experiences.
Yeah, that's beautiful and very intriguing. Especially like the name of your company, Code. You're cracking the code on multiple things. And it's all based upon, and we'll get into the science of it so you can explain that, but it's all based upon optimizing the human body's ability to stay alive and to have a much higher quality of life in every category. Because you're covering categorically many different areas of the human operating system. So the products themselves, what are they termed as infoceuticals? Is that what you would call them?
Yes, we call them bioenergetic therapeutics, but essentially they are infoceuticals, because what happens when we get a symptom is that the cellular communication is disrupted, and that's what sets the body out of balance or homeostasis. So what we do is we take Dr. McMichael's formulas. We've used advanced technology to map the information that's in the molecular formula. And then the information is digitized into a code. And then that code is infused into saline solution, which acts as a carrier to deliver it sublingually under the tongue to your body and restore that disrupted cellular communication. So then, again, we're restoring balance. And that's the essence of it. But I would love for Wendy to tell the story about the analogy of the digital photography and the old-fashioned photography, because it really helps people understand it in much more simple terms.
So we have this product, and when people hear the word bioenergetic, therapeutics, or even infoceuticals, this is very new to the layman. And, where I come from, I am a layman, right? Although I told you I pretend that I'm a doctor sometimes. But I really think in terms of marketing and speaking to the general population. And we were introduced to a brilliant doctor who spoke way above my pay grade. But I did ask him, how would he explain what we do to the average person? And he gave this analogy, and I use it, where when you think of photography in the olden days, photography was camera and a individual that was taking the picture, using the camera. And then once that person took the image through the camera, they had to go into a dark room. And in the dark room, they used a combination of chemicals. And these chemicals were not only put into a bin, but also the paper had chemicals on it as well. And it was just this very careful dance between all of these chemicals. And at the end of the day in the darkroom, the photographer had the most perfect image. Well,
Hopefully.
hopefully. Well, in today's world, we have digital cameras and we have our smartphones. And with one click of a button, that image that a person is taking through the camera or the lens in that smartphone, it is digitized. And the digitization of that image is the same analogy as we use with our code products, because we are actually digitizing the information that is derived from the ingredients or the molecular formulas that the information is coming from. And so we've bypassed mixing all of the chemicals from traditional allopathic medicine and utilizing our body and our body breaking down these chemicals. And we've just taken the most important part of those ingredients, and that's the information. So that's the analogy that we like to use when we describe code products.
Yeah, that's very thorough. And it's a great analogy. And it takes me back to 2008 when I first started learning about homeopathy, and not the homeopathic formulas, but the homeopathic signature, which was using a machine that could imprint those signatures into water, and a person would drink it. And I was, a little bit skeptical of it. I wanted to believe it was true. The practitioner who I met, Fern Wolf, she'd been doing this for many years, and she had all these different frequency patterns in a library of these little vials. And she had this electrodermal scanner, where you poke into the finger and you can read through meridians what the response of the body is. And I didn't see a whole lot happen right away with me when I first went and did some sessions, because I didn't have a whole lot really to notice. But about a month later, I brought my mom. And so that would be 2008. My mom was in her 80s, like in her late 80s, I think 86 at that time. And so my mom had a problem with her neck, where when she was 55, I don't know if it was Lyme she got or what it was, but she all of a sudden could not move her head more than about here on each direction, with quite a bit of pain if she tried to go further. So it was a really big pain for her, like for 30 years at that point. She drove a car until she was 96. And she'd have to turn her body to see, around for checking for blind spots. And this is a big problem. And this is not easy to fix. And she'd gone to all kinds of things like acupuncture or whatever. So she's sitting there at Fern's place, and she is unhappy because my mom's a super skeptic. And she was super frugal. She had lots of money, doesn't like spending money. Fern's $150 an hour. And that's like, outrageously expensive, So, but she was there anyway because I convinced her to get there. So she's sitting in front of Fern, and my mom starts complaining to her. I asked her not to complain about the money, that I would be more than happy to pay the bill. But she goes, Fern, I just think it's completely ridiculous that you're charging me $150 an hour. And, what are you going to do for me? Like, this is how she started the conversation. Totally negative. I was like, Mom. And Fern says, Ian, just hang on for a sec. She said, Mrs. Clark, I totally respect the fact that you think that that's expensive. Now, let's just pretend that I have a magic wand. Let's just pretend. I don't have one, but let's pretend I do. And there's something that you want to get solved today that has been bothering you for a long time, whatever it is. And if I could wave a magic wand today and get rid of that, do you think that would be worth $150 if I could do that within the first hour? She goes, yes. And I said, okay, well, we're going to do that. And if I cannot solve a problem for you, whatever it is, I'm not going to charge you. She goes, oh, okay. Well, that's fair. Let's do this, right? And she goes, now, do you mind drinking a lot of water? And my mom goes, well, how much water? Well, I don't know, but it's going to be maybe quite a bit of water. So she goes, oh, that's fine. So she starts to go through and diagnose my mom. And she's checking and checking and checking. And then she starts to put formulas together. Well, no, the first thing was, she said, what is it, Dorothy, that you would like to fix? And she talked about her neck. She goes, it's very bad. She said, well, move it as much as you can. So she did. Anyway, she goes through 3 different iterations thinking that she's got my mom fixed to test, and it's not working at all. Like, not at all. And Fern is trying to drill down. She goes, Dorothy, it's like going through layers. I've got to solve this so I can get to here, and I got to solve that and I get to here. She said, I can't guarantee I can get all the way, but we're going to try. And we're like 35 minutes in at this point. My mom's drank about 4 or 5 glasses of water, and it's not fun because there's homeopathic imprinting. And so then she went through and she got a whole bunch of the vials, and you got to be really skilled to do this, right? Like, you got to know your stuff. She's reading the screen and doing all this. She finally goes, okay, I think we've got it. And actually the second last time before she did this, she said, don't try to move your head yet. We got to go a bit deeper. So then the final time, my mom drank the last glass of water. She goes, okay, Dorothy, let's try to move your head. And so my mom went like, and then she kept going and going and going all the way over. And she went like that, right? Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And she's waving her head back and forth. And I'm looking at this going, oh, whoa,
Right.
this is ridiculous. Wow, this is heavy duty stuff. And then it totally worked. And that's where I was like, okay, I totally buy into this signature stuff. There's a code here. This is the real deal. And my mom never had a problem with her neck from then on until she passed it. She passed it 5 months before her 100th birthday in 2022. So
Wow.
he was able to go and drive and look around and do everything. So that's something that worked completely. Like, what? Okay. So that was a huge wake up, that there was some kind of a blockage, interruption, signature thing going on. That's why when I met you two with the code, I'm like, okay, I if this stuff does similar things and it's communicating data to open up blockages, to release information that now the body can actually get the info to the place where it goes. Because you eat food, you drink fluids, it's all data, actually. The body's reading this stuff and getting the color and the vibration, the aminos and the fats or whatever. It's all data. And you can't eat the code and survive nutritional, but you're talking about really resetting the body back to the human original signature, right? Is that correct?
That's
Yes,
correct.
that is correct. What we've done, a big thing, and we were just talking about this yesterday. I pulled out my past, and my past box, my past medicine cabinet was this huge box that was full of Dayquil, NyQuil, Zyrtec, Mucinex, Halls, Vicks. If you're old school, then you've heard of those products, right? We all had them back in the day. And there's this whole box that I used to have that was for this. Then my approach to healing started to shift because I realized all these side effects that were in these products and these chemicals and things that I couldn't even pronounce. And, they didn't make me feel good. So I switched to these all natural products. And then I had an even bigger box with elderberry and oregano and, oscillium and all these, zinc and D3 and all the supplements and all the vitamins. And that box was even bigger than my traditional box. So when Wendy and I sat down and we formed this company, what we were really looking for is an alternative to things that people keep on hand in their medicine cabinet. So, for example, if you come down with a cold or you have a flu-like symptom, at the very first sign of a symptom, you would have our antivirus formula on hand and you would have a little card that tells you the protocol to go ahead and start taking it. And in most people that we have used our products, including our own experience, most people by the end of the first day are not getting worse. And by the end of the second day, they're actually starting to come back around and feel better. So even if that doesn't happen, the duration is lessened and the severity is lessened. So that's just one of our formulas. We have an allergy formula, and it's one of our best-selling formulas because people will put one drop under their tongue, their sinuses will start to drain. If they're having a skin reaction, it basically cools everything down. And so our products have a specific function. And like Wendy said, we have 10 formulas. We have everything from muscle and joint pain and inflammation, weight loss. We do have a daily general cellular health formula. And then we have all of our immune boosters, which are, the antivirus, the breathe, which helps with the mucus, the react, which is the allergy formula, the protect, which is more of just an immune boosting formula that we like to use, especially this time of year during cold and flu season. We definitely use that one twice a day. Then we have our superhero product, which is calm, and it really brings in a better level of clarity and focus. And it's great for people that are using other medications like Adderall, for example. We've had stories of people that are able to come off of their medication and use Calm instead. And so that's been fantastic. And we also have a sleep formula. So each one of our products is only designed for a specific imbalance.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you're tapping into the human operating system in whichever system that is, whether it's autonomic nervous system or digestive or respiratory, circulatory, or brain function, all of that. So it's complementing the natural human ability to keep itself clean and healthy. And then if you're doing all the clean eating and you make sure you're hydrating and you're doing all the other things, this is coming in to complement every single system.
Yes. And it works synergistically with everything else that people are already doing. Like you said, not only diet and exercise. I take Calm before meditation because it allows my thoughts to slow down faster. It allows me to focus on what my intention is with that single pointed awareness. So it's, as an entrepreneur, it helps me when there's different problems or challenges or conflicts coming from all these different angles. Calm allows me to have that focus and clarity that I need to get the most out of my workday.
Right now, let's talk a little bit about Dr. McMichael. So how is he the inventor and the guy who discovered this and developed it?
He is. He's a pioneer in his own right. He is also a farmer. He's worked with animals his whole life. And a lot of our products, in fact, our products are safe for people and pets because it's only one ingredient, saline solution with bioenergy patterns. So he's used these and studied these on his horses and animals for 40 years. He had over 200 patents. And so we looked at his research and then we decided which direction we wanted to go in terms of creating this medicine cabinet, this modern medicine cabinet. He's a molecular biologist with a specialty in immunology and virology, and he was a professor. He's quite brilliant, and they've done a lot of research. And right now, because our formulas are based on his formulas, but they're different. Because if we use his molecular formulas, we would need to go through the governing bodies to have our product approved, like FDA approval. He has gone through clinical trials and done extensive research and gone up to phase 2 in these trials for FDA approval. And it's just cost millions of dollars. And so when we found that we can do this through vibration or frequency, it simplified things in a big way. So now we're at a place in our research where we're correlating the energetic formulas to his molecular formulas, and we're finding they're working the same. It's very exciting.
Right. So the cost of production is very reasonable, and you're able to share the product at a really good price as well. So this investment that people make in their life every single day, they're going to be investing in themselves one way or another, from the food they buy to the fluids they drink to the things they put in their skin and in their body supplementally. It's important that people make sure that they're investing the proper amount of time, energy, and resources into the highest level possible return on their investment. And especially in this day and age, I mean, to get people away from eating all these body acidizing supplements that everybody has marketed and said, you got to have this and there's hundreds of thousands of them out there now. You go bankrupt and you'd be dead if you took all the supplements that everybody tells you you're supposed to take. And so this is very much aligned with activation, because activation simplified it, went back to the original nutritional, foundational, functional things, rather than trying to bring remedies for stuff. When you remove the problem itself, you no longer need the remedies. So the problem is, one of the biggest problems that you're addressing and getting rid of is this confusion of information, confusion of data inside the body that is just, gets confused and doesn't know which way to turn and doesn't know what to do next. So really what you're doing is you're bringing a call to action immediately. So it's pretty much instantaneous, right? You put it sublingually, it's going to go in, and the body is moving blood every 60 seconds. All your blood touches every cell in your body every 60 seconds. You pump 7,200 liters of blood a day. You're breathing 11,000 liters of air per day. So how does this tie into detoxification, for example?
Our products are not really designed for detoxification. That's part of our diet, right? We have to put in the right things, and how we eliminate them effectively matters as well. But we don't specialize in the detoxification products. However, we're focused on cellular communication. So, for example, we have products that have instant gratification, such as Slim, our weight loss formula, which is really popular right now, especially this time of year. I've been taking it myself for the last week, in addition to doing your detoxification process. And I'm already down 4 pounds. So I'm super excited, because the Slim helps to reduce the sugar cravings, because I did eat a lot of sugar over the holidays. And so using the Solaris, I'm able to start removing things like heavy metals and all this cellular debris. And then I take a product like mine, like Slim, and then I also take Balance. I take multiple formulas daily, but Balance is a great formula for mitochondrial function. It helps the body heal faster. It helps boost immunity, and it increases mitochondrial function, and it helps the body produce ATP. So that's more of our general cellular health product. But you would need a product like yours for actual detoxification, and you would need to implement a diet that supports that as well. And like I was saying, we do have instant gratification products, Slim being one of them. React, which is our allergy formula, is another one. And Breathe is pretty instant, as well as is Calm and Dream. Now, balance is, again, our daily cellular health formula. I didn't really notice a difference in my energy levels for probably almost a month, maybe around 21 to 28 days. I started noticing that my energy was more sustained throughout each day and that I had more energy in general. And the same thing with Recover.
Mhm.
Notice it if you don't take it, but you really won't notice it when you take it. Does that make sense? Like you don't feel anything. You put a drop under your tongue and you use it to enhance your body's ability to recover after strenuous exercise. But if you don't take it, you feel more sore. So, but you don't take it instantly. You don't get that instant gratification. So it's we're working with subtle energy and there's so many we've really up until recently, we've really lacked the technology to understand how this is really working. And recently, we've been able to use devices like the BioWell gas discharge visualization device and the neural check device to be able to show physiological effects of the products. And our results to these tests have been unbelievable. Especially, we've spent a lot of time focusing on calm, but we've also worked with a third party, Dr. Hemal Patel. He's the chief scientist for Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mhm.
and he's part of Versea Health, and his research is also incredible. So we've actually had 3 of our products tested balance on a muscle cell, react on an immune cell, and calm on a neuronal cell. And we're beginning to make those correlations with Dr. McMichael's formulas. So some of them you feel and some of them you don't.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. The instant gratification is always fun.
Yeah.
I think the main point that we want to make sure you, the listener, is paying attention to right now is that we are providing information, which is you're educating yourself. You're literally teaching yourself about these things because a lot of people think that these podcasts are all designed just around selling you stuff. And they're not, because the only way you can know that this is true is by experiencing it, number one, yourself. It's really your job to sell yourself on something, because if we've convinced you of something, you may become unconvinced later. When you convince yourself by getting data, you use your common sense, you find out, hey, I can actually get my cells internally to communicate. They communicate at light speed. You have trillions of cells. They're constantly in contact. And if you have something that goes in and brings that communication signal, which I call signal to noise ratio. So there's a signal that comes out, like when we're speaking about a subject, for example, we might be all over the map and we're talking, going down rabbit holes and everything else. Or we bring it definitively in where the people go, you know what? In my gut, I know you're telling me something that actually makes sense. I should have thought of this. I kind of knew it was true, but now you're putting it in words. That's the signal to noise ratio. We've gotten rid of the noise and the signal can get through. So it takes the least amount of energy to have a clean signal. It takes a ton of energy to deal with noise and confusion. And so when you bring the signal in clean, now you got great cellular communication. Now that you are able to have much clearer communication with yourself. And the only way that I love that about the activation products too, because people get them, they find out that what I've told them is actually true for them themselves. Like, I don't want people following me. I want you following you, because if you're convinced against your will, you really have the same opinion still. So we want you to convince yourself by experience, because in the physical body, you can't fake it. It's all measurable. You can't pretend to be healthy. When your body gets healthy on its own, it speaks to you and educates you about how things are. And that's the only way I've learned that. I learned that lesson over and over and over again, because you go into the natural healing space and all these natural products. I've never seen more slick marketing in my life. I mean, you go to Supply Side West or Expo West, every single company says our glop is better than your glop. We have the best of the best. You got to have our stuff. That is actually not true, because if we would have to have everyone's if that was all true. So it goes good, great, greater, and then way up here above it all is the greatest. And the greatest takes the least amount of time, energy, and effort and investment of those things, your resources, to get the maximum return. So your experience listening to what we're telling you today and then bringing that information in, making a small investment to start with. Just try one thing. Let's see if that does something. Try one of the instant gratification things. We have 3 major products, which is iodine, Solaris, and Ease, that are instant gratification because they not only work immediately, they continue to work into the future to deliver the elemental things and the detoxification elements just to simply support your body's ability to get better every single day. Because you want to get a little bit healthier in every category every single day. That's why it was very exciting for me to meet you, because you're touching so many of the operating systems simultaneously. And that's coming in with an energetic support and information support, communication. And then we come in with the raw materials and the protocols in order for people to adjust their lifestyle nice and gently as they climb the ladder. It's like, I started on the ground at 46 years old. I didn't even know there was a ladder. I'm like, oh my God, I've got a tumor, heart disease, and I'm going to die, according to the medical institutions. And they're telling me I have to do what they do, I'm going to die right away. And I said, that does not resonate. I remember when I was 20 years old, both my uncles on my mom's side died of cancer. They died 2 days apart. I look like one of them. My oldest brother, a medical doctor for 30 years, told me, that's the hand of cards you're dealt. You've got to deal with it. You're genetically predisposed to an early death. You're just going to have to do whatever you're told, and you got to follow the procedure. And my complaint to him was, they're offering me the same thing in 2004 as they did back in the dark ages in 1978, which was absolutely brutal. Both my uncles suffered immensely that whole time. They were diagnosed. They both, what is the chance of that? One was 51, one was 54. They're both my mom's brothers. They both get diagnosed with cancer in the same year, and they died 2 days apart in September 1978. Okay, that was a massive dynamic impact in a negative way on our family. It was like, what just happened there? Both of their parents were still alive in their 80s. They sat and cried for 6 months that their sons died before they did. They couldn't believe it. And my mom lived till 5 months shy of her 100th birthday. She didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't party, didn't do all the things her brothers were doing, but they just didn't know. And here we are in 2004 at that point, 21 years ago. Surely it can't be the same. And it was exactly the same. So that was like, okay, that's shut down. I am not going to listen to these people. I'm not going to listen to my brother. I don't care about genetics at this point. I care about one thing. I want to find out the truth. And I woke up one morning and knew there were people on the earth somewhere who had the highest level knowledge. And I knew I couldn't find them because it's not possible to find just a needle in a haystack. But if I could be led, I would be led. So I get to meet people like you along the journey. You're way down the journey, but you have a super high level knowledge because of your experience in 2020. And then, a year later, Wendy, where you experienced the same thing, you go, okay, we really do have to get this to the world. This is something that is so simple, so affordable, and so dynamically effective. It's your mission. It is. I mean, everybody has a super gift. Everyone. There's not a soul on this earth that doesn't have some kind of super gift. Most people never find it. They get stuck in their avocation, their job. They're just over broke. They're struggling. They're trying to figure it out. And most of them never do because they didn't realize that they also have a mission. And so you're tapped into your vocation. Your vocation is really another word for it is a ministry. And it's not a religious term. A minister is someone who administers things in a servitude. We're servants. We're here to serve each other, and that's your ministry. So your gift, your super gift, is that you've been tapped into this. You saw it. You experienced it. You got inspired. And now you're bringing this to the world in a profound way. And you're going to stay right in that lane and just keep finding other things to add in as time goes on. But you've got a base now already. So the world has to find out about, and they will find out about you. In fact, they're already finding out about you. We're not going to wait, into the future. It's already happened. It's happening now. It's going to happen more. And so the combination of all the collaborative energies of everyone who is now the top level. I got elevated to the top level, not on my own. I can't take credit for any of it. I was simply led by asking to receive, knocking and having it open, right? Seeking you shall find. And I was led. And I got to meet people like Wendy, when you and I met back in Boulder, it was instantaneous. We were like, okay, there's a resonant frequency, something here in the conversation. We ended up talking for an hour and a half in a big crowd of people in a noisy room. And that's where that all started. So that's how it's been all along. And it's just a matter of gathering all these master keys. You have a major master key. So that master key goes with all the other master keys I've been gathering. So it goes into their portfolio. People now are enhanced even more because you're touching so many things that people will already be doing by giving that cellular communication, that energy into the body. And everyone will experience this. Everyone who is an entrepreneurial spirit about their body, they're early adopters or innovators. They're not waiting for everybody else to do something. That's who's listening to this podcast right now, right? That's why the younger than yesterday terminology is there, because it's actually true, but it has to cover every category of health because it's like a chain with links. And there may be 15 links in the chain, your operating systems. And every link has to be strengthened more every day because the tendency in this world, because of all the pollutants and all the problems and all the stress, links tend to get weak. And if one of your links is getting weak and it breaks, you're actually physically dead that day. You can't have a link breaking. Every link depends on other links. So your technology is strengthening each link energetically, informationally. And that's the communication side. It's very dynamic. People might say, oh, that sounds woo-woo. Well, that's okay. It's just woo-woo to them. There's nothing woo-woo about this. This is going into a real esoteric realm. Everybody's had their experiences in life, right? Where some invisible force has affected them and they've seen something and they go, what was that? Like these are invisible forces to the physical eye, but they're visible forces to the spiritual eye. So our spiritual eye...
We've just lacked the technology to measure it. That's all.
Yep,
now we finally have technology that we cannot find the subtle energy patterns in the saline solution. If you test a bottle of our product on our certificates of analysis, it is saline solution.
Yep.
But when you test the physiological effect of it with some of these devices like the neural check or the BioWell, then you can see how they're affecting the body. So it's just a matter of the technology catching up to the science.
Right. Now, you could take an HRV, a heart rate variable monitor, check the person's where they are on the chart, right? Autonomic nervous system wise, take the Calm or whichever one you recommend and see within a very short period of time that adjust.
Yeah. 15 minutes, many people. Yep. We've done 2 different studies. We had 26 participants with our BioWell study. And we took a baseline scan. We administered 1 drop of Calm sublingual. We waited 15 minutes and we scanned again. And we did a second scan at the 30-minute mark. So probably about half the participants had improvements in their stress energy by that 15-minute mark. But close to 90% of the people had improvements by that 30-minute mark. So it was very incredible. It's increasing energy, decreasing stress, and it's creating more coherence in our body. So that was an exciting project. And same thing that we did, we had 22 participants with our neural check research. And because the neural check tests other things like cardiac function, heart rate variability, along with the autonomic nervous system, the biological age, all these other parameters that the neural check tests, we had very same results. I mean, we saw improvements in 90% of people across all the different parameters. It was beautiful. And again, the research that Dr. Hemel Patel did, now he's using old-fashioned science in vitro, in a petri dish, doing cellular biopsies, and we're seeing what we need to see there as well with promising results. Our next phase of testing will involve genomics, which for me is going to be really exciting because that's when we're going to be able to really show that we're up or down regulating gene expression based on the formula. And once we can do that, that's where we can really show people how we're helping them. And the final aspect of our research, which will be ongoing for the eternity of the business, but Dr. Hemal Patel and Versailles Health have this product called MeScreen, and it's a blood sample that's given. We'll use actual people for that, and they will submit a baseline blood test. And then they'll use the product we haven't decided on a day. We need to ask Dr. Patel what he's going to suggest, but it'll be 30 or 60 days of taking one of our products 2 to 3 times a day. And then we'll look at the more long-term effects of what our product is doing. I'd like to suggest that when you think about fields like not only epigenetics, but neuroscience, and the neuroplasticity in the brain. So neurons that fire together wire together. So if we keep doing the same thing habitually day in and day out, then we get the same results that we always got. But the minute you take a drop of calm, now all of a sudden, to me, my experience, it feels like I'm rewiring my brain because I'm not in that same reactive mode that I would have been without it. So now the question becomes, is that allowing my brain to create more new neural circuitry that supports healthier habits? And what is the long-term effect of that? Well, at the end of the day, all I know is that it can't hurt. So why not? It's energized saline solution. We are going to have ongoing research, like I said, forever, because that's what it's going to take, because we're pioneering the way in this sort of medicine. So I guess for your listeners, the one thing that you can take away is that no matter how it works or how complicated it sounds, it's as simple as 1 drop of saline solution that is infused with bioenergy patterns under the tongue. It can't hurt. There are 0 side effects. There are no contraindications, making it safe for people and pets of all ages and sizes, and no side effects. That's the brilliant part of the whole thing. So no side effects, no contraindications, safe for everybody. It's literally what we're made out of.
Right. So there's one thing that I think is extremely interesting that just dawned on me when you were talking about this. You're familiar with double-blind, placebo-controlled randomized studies, right?
Yes.
You have the ultimate product for it because no one can tell if the saline solution has the energetic imprint or not. Now, there's a way to do this that I thought
I was dreaming about it.
Okay.
I was dreaming about it last night, so I can't wait because you're already tuned into where my brain is going. I love it.
Right. So this is what has to be set up. You have to have a place where the subject is going to either get the placebo or the real thing. The person receiving it cannot have any eye contact or any body language contact whatsoever with the person giving it to them. So they have to sit in a place where they're behind a curtain. And the reason for this, because the energetic imprint is there with the person handing it, they can see their face. Because that person will know, right, whether or not that is got the real thing or if it's just a placebo. And so what you do is you take the bottles, you do not have any label on them at all. You have a number on the bottom of the bottle, so they can't tell if it is yay or nay. There's no indication of that. Now, the measurement is the testers are going to know for sure whether that was a placebo or the real thing. And you hand it around to the person, or you slide it through something where they can't even see their hand. You just put it in a little box and you slide it through the curtain to the person. They pick it up. They don't look at the bottom of the bottle at all, right? And it will have a code that they wouldn't know if it's yay or nay anyway. The tester knows. It'll have a 1 or a 2 or whatever number it is. And they take the drop and then they be tested X amount of time later, whatever it may be, heart rate variable. And that way there's no possible way that there can be any placebo effect upon it that is otherwise than random. So a random placebo is very, very low normally. You know how people do muscle testing all the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no possible way that that is a validation. I like kinesiology. I think there's something to it. But the problem is the person doing the test knows, and there's too much body language and there's too much temptation to maybe start to push a little quicker. Even microsecond will cause the person to feel weak or strong. So this you've got, I mean, I've never seen any product that you can make it so there's no possible way they could know, because it's going to all taste exactly the same 100% of the time. Because it's the same saline solution. So, and they can't taste the frequency that's embedded in there. So that should be a double, you could truly say we have done a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized study, and here are the results.
How many participants do you think that we need? Because I can't even believe you're saying this right now, because I literally woke up this morning and I was dreaming about it. Except that I had colors on the bottom of the bottle instead of numbers. But who would know? I was thinking Matrix style, the red pill or the blue pill. So one would be red and one would be blue. Who would know? Which is also an option. But how many participants?
Well, what I would do to attract people to come in, because you have those beautiful sample kits that are a phenomenal thing, where you have all your different formulas in that sample kit. It's the tiny bottles, and they're going to be able to get lots of doses out of that, is offer 100 people a gift of that sample pack. That's their payment for coming in. And that they are also inspired to come in and prove something and validate something together with your company, where many, many, many millions of people could be helped with this based on these tests. And you just advertise it in the local area, wherever you're going to do this, and you'll get 100 people. And out of that 100 people, you're going to get all your percentages. So half of them are going to get the placebo every time. Half of them are going to get the real product every time. And that's going to qualify something that is profound. It's very difficult to do with the activation products, because they all have a color and a taste and a certain thing, and we don't have the same exact undetectable thing, right? And have no eye contact, no body contact, that thing that slided through the deal. They come in, the people who bring them in and sit them down are not going to know at all. They'll have no knowledge of what they're going to get, yay or nay. And that way you validated it to the max. And, they've done this with dowsers. They did this in Europe. That's where I found out about it. People will douse, and they got their little pendulum, and they got their little rods, and they got all their stuff, right?
Yeah.
These people swore up and down they could find water. They could determine whether that supplement is good for you or not accurately every single time, based upon their muscle testing, their dowsing rod, their dowsing pendulum. They couldn't even, and they did this with a lot of people, and they had people fly from all over the world, the best of the best in this thing. They couldn't even get a 6% random accuracy, let alone 100%. So when I saw that, I went, yeah, right. Okay, it's not that I wanted to be a skeptic. Come on, guys. Come to the table and prove it out. Let's just prove it out, because we want to make sure that when we're giving somebody a perceived value, they are getting a received value greater than their perceived value.
Right.
So you've invested millions of dollars, years of your life, to get to the place where you could be now able to supply these things. And people don't have millions of dollars in time to run around. That was your job. You did it. Just like it was my job. We invested $35 million into learning what works and what doesn't work. Most of it doesn't work. Some does. And then we got the direct feedback anecdotally from clients, because we sell directly to them with no buffer zone. We can't hide behind some thick wall where we're pretending our stuff works. If it doesn't, we hear immediately from our clients, and when it works, we only hear from a certain number of them. When it doesn't work, we'll definitely hear from them. And so that's how we eliminated products that we knew were not really delivering it. We were convinced potentially could. So it's all about perceived value and then a greater received value. So that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got to set it up.
See, Lisa wanted to know, what were you possibly talking to that man with that beard for an hour and a half? She said,
I was working the room, which never happens. I'm always the one in the corner talking to the man with the beard, right?
so we're gonna have to have you come down from that cold Arctic Canada to our sunny Florida, maybe join us to do this with us. But everything that you're saying, when you go back to whatever product it is, whether it's code or activation or any supplement that a consumer is willing to purchase, this is it's their hard-earned money that they're choosing to spend to make them healthier. And there are so many products out there. The thing about activation that we were drawn to, as is the thing about code, is it just goes back to everything at its most simplistic level. And with code, it's what we're made of. And you talk about, all of the research, which is very necessary. But at the end of the day, if someone takes a drop of code, or they use your magnesium product, for example, like Lisa's grandfather, he's 97 years old. He used your spray, and after one night, he didn't have restless leg. And that's an anecdotal story. A person wakes up and it changes their life. For us, with one drop under the tongue, everything can change within 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And so it's drug-free, non-toxic, it's safe. So why not try it? Just try it.
Can't hurt.
And it can't hurt. That's what we always say. It can't hurt.
And it's super affordable too. It's not like they're
Very
having
affordable.
to
It
jump through
really
boots and
is.
break the piggy bank. Yeah.
It will
It's a
not.
it's a very respectful thing. When you talk about people having resources, they've earned the money wherever they earned it. They paid their taxes. They paid their expenses to live in life and normal expenses. Now they have a very small ratio that's disposable income. They can do whatever they want with it. And when you have 1,000,001 shiny objects out there trying to attract the money out of their bank account into those companies' bank accounts using slick marketing, that's the biggest turnoff in the world, because they're sucking up their resources where each individual is responsible to put their resources at the highest level for the maximum return on the investment. And what's really interesting is, as we got better and better and better and found out the more effective things and we produced them to perfection, it costs way less. People go, well, that must be really expensive. Actually, no. The better we got, the more perfect it was, the less it cost us to produce, so we can keep our prices low. Our goal was always to get lower prices. Not go, well, there's inflation and we have to raise our prices. It's like, no, we get a scalable volume where we get our costs down more and more and more. We get over the hump, and now we can really share some good prices, because it's all about getting people to have a higher quality of life, not just to live longer. The living longer is automatic. And one other thing that you're bringing in is biointelligence, because when you're biointelligent, you can see something coming at you. The likelihood of being in an accident is way less. You're more sensitive, more discerning. You can see things more peripheral. You're more sensitive with your pineal gland, your antenna, picking up on signals that you would otherwise maybe be dulled to, that you wouldn't be aware, and then something comes at you blindside and you get taken out. So there's all these elemental things, even though it's only a 5% chance of being killed in a car accident or some accidental thing. That's all it is, 5%. 95% is either getting so old and screwed up that the person dies, or having a disease that kills them earlier. And having quality of life improve every single day. This is exciting. I mean, I'm super excited to get this out to people. The listener, your excitement level is going to be wherever you're open to receiving. Is up to you. And also, how open are you to investing in yourself? And I used to think that people didn't care about themselves. I really did. I look back at myself at 46 years old. I was careless. I was reckless. I thought, well, whatever. I don't care. I would say, oh, whatever, I don't care. I found out that was a lie. that I cared 1,000,000,000 times more than I ever dreamed that I cared. So what I've now learned over the 20 years, even if people are abusing themselves, drinking alcohol, eating the wrong food, or whatever it is, I don't look at them and say, oh, that person doesn't care. No, that person really does care. They just don't know how much yet. I had to find out. So everyone, it's your job to find out that you care 1,000,000,000 times more than you think, even if you're really careful already. So being careful, full of care for yourself. And you can only be careful for others when you're full of care for yourself. Just like you can only love others or be loved as much as you love yourself. And you love your body. You really do love your body, even if you might not treat it so good sometimes. But you're going to learn, and I had to learn. And it's a live, die, sink, or swim situation with me at that time. But I'm healthier than I've ever dreamed it was even possible in life. And I turned 67 in June, which means nothing. People go, oh, that's old. I go, no. That's super young. Middle age is not.
Yeah, I will say
on.
this, but it's so true. One of the things that we are so, first of all, I just want to make note that since we've met, Ian, I really cannot believe how physically, when we look at you, how you actually look like you are reversing in age. I mean, we joked about it that it's like Benjamin Button, that you're reversing in time. And I say to Lisa, whatever he's doing, I want
some of that.
Yeah, we want some of that.
Yeah.
But you just turned 67. You would not know that. I'm turning 57 this year, and it's the same thing. It's when you care for yourself and you take care of yourself, everything else is so much better. Everything is so much better. And I thought that I took pretty good care of myself. And what I've realized now that I'm in this realm and in this world, and especially with Lisa as my partner, and she has brought to me such a wealth of knowledge of things that I didn't even know that existed, let alone I didn't know that I was even tapped into spiritually. I feel that every day, even though we're working hard and it's a grind, but we want to be successful, we are feeling so good about ourselves because we are living with each day a better life than we lived yesterday. And it's by being introduced to products like activation, and it's learning about things and taking those incremental steps each and every day, just doing one thing a little bit different, a little bit better every day. And I think that's a very big part of it as well.
So when it comes to affordability, it makes me laugh when people say, oh, that sounds expensive. And immediately that tells me that the word that they use, expensive, they're not realizing it's actually an investment. So there are things that are expenses in life that you can't get away from, taxes, whatever. Well, you could get away from taxes if you know what you're doing. But I'm not talking about evading. I'm talking about paying the right amount of tax. But when it comes to the word expensive, that means that they haven't convinced themselves yet that it's actually an investment. It's not expensive at all. It's not an expense, it's an investment. So what are people going to invest in their life with code? For example, they want to have this, this, and this. What's the approximate budget they're going to be looking at?
That's a great way to look at it. It's not an expense. You're investing in yourself. So how important is your health to you, and how do you want to spend that money? Like you said, there are so many shiny things out there. But when you really break it down, code products come in two sizes. When we created our original size, we did it to put it into the medicine cabinet so that these 10 initial formulas would be shared with the entire family. But if one person was to take one bottle of the 15 milliliter, it has approximately 300 drops in each bottle. So it's a 5-month supply, and the retail price with no sales is $111. So when you break it down, it's $22 a month to
Wow.
put your body back into balance or homeostasis and to correct the issue on a cellular level. So in the grand scheme of cost, it's really $20 a month. And when you think about someone purchasing over-the-counter medication, or even, the most difficult thing is when someone is really comparing the cost of getting a prescription medicine, not these very expensive prescriptions, hundreds and hundreds, or even some are thousands of dollars. But when someone has insurance and they have the ability to have a copayment, and their copayment is $5, it's very difficult to convince that person otherwise to spend more than what they're spending on a copayment for insurance. But what are the side effects of that medication that you're taking? And then what is the actual cost? What is it costing you and your health to do that? So we have really tried to price our products to make it affordable. We also have a 3 milliliter size bottle, which has approximately 60 drops. That is $44 for the 3 milliliter, but it is a great way for a person to try and sample the product over, let's say, a 30-day period of time at 2 drops a day, which is what the suggested use is for most of our products. And when that individual starts to take the product and they see that it works, well, then they can invest in a larger bottle, which actually will cost less by purchasing the larger bottle.
Yeah, it costs a lot less. It's like
A
half the
lot
price.
less. Half the price.
People spend that at Starbucks in a week.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then people love Starbucks, which is, wherever they want to spend their money, that's fine. But
Yeah.
we're talking about how much is a day in the hospital going to cost.
Right.
Right.
And
That's
we
right.
say how
We say how much?
how much is a day out of work going to cost you if you're sick? What is the cost of that? What is the cost of your mental health? And imagine taking one drop and it could literally change the way that you approach your daily stressors. And, for a product like Calm, there's such it runs the gamut of someone that's looking to just kind of clear away just all of the noise, like you talked about, and being able to hone in and focus in on what really needs to be done. It could also help someone that has more serious issues like anxiety, which I don't know what the percentage of individuals are now that deal with anxiety, but it's quite high. In the world we live in, there are just so many outside stressors. So it reduces anxiety. It helps even with depression. But where we are so excited is that imagine a community, a specific community, like individuals that deal with autism. If someone is on the spectrum and they're able to take a couple of drops over the course of a day, and it's not only changing how the person or that child with the autism can deal with things, but it's also taken by the family members. And the family members actually are also able to deal with, let's say, that autistic child or a first responder that can't take medication or drugs. And they just take something that's as simple as salt water that can help them with their daily stressors, or veterans that deal with PTSD. So we've been doing this now for 2 years. And this year in 2025, we are so excited to really start honing in on very specific groups and individuals that we can really help. And that really is our mission, helping one person at a time with the simplicity of a drop.
Right. And that gets away from them gets the person to stop taxing their body by taking all these other foreign substances the body's not deficient in, that's remedy-based, rather than properly getting rid of the problem itself to clear the issue. So that's been very, very informative. So I think we covered a lot of bases, and all the information you've been hearing today with myself, Wendy, and Lisa is beneficial to you. Use it to the maximum possible. Explore. Get on your adventure, and let's have some fun together. So when this goes out, just let us know, what your response is when you try out the Code products. And I'm really, really excited to hear some feedback from you, because I'm very careful with who we interview on this Younger Than Yesterday podcast, because your time is super valuable. Thank you, Wendy and Lisa, both for showing up and investing so much of your time. You're both super high production mode at all times. And so the time is of the essence. And we look forward to further conversations. So we'll definitely have a follow-up podcast with you to find out more about your testing, the greater validations you're doing, and I'll let you know what everyone says.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.